So today I'm going to show you how to make the filling to my samosas, which you can serve like a potato coconut curry. It's sort of like an alternative to mashed potatoes. So we're going to start with the coconut oil. And a trick to Indian cooking, the best way to make it taste really authentic is that you want to pre-cook the vegetables. So I'll show you the prep I've done first. This is 4 potatoes, 3 carrots, and a cup and a half of peas. Just the carrots and potatoes I boiled for about 10 minutes and drained, and it's just frozen peas that have been let to thaw. So that's just in the background. So the trick with the Indian spices is that they need to roast in oil. You don't want to be sprinkling dry spices on top of cooked vegetables, or it's really just going to taste gritty and powdery and bitter, and it's not going to taste like Indian food. So to start, this curry recipe is really simple because it calls for about a tablespoon of a lot of ingredients. So I've got a tablespoon of just curry powder from Whole Foods bulk department, and a little bit of garam masala, about a teaspoon of cumin, and then a tablespoon each of garlic and ginger, and a whole onion. And then also I'm using today, because we're in Austin and it's hatch chili season, I've got some hatch chili peppers that I'm using. You can also use 1 green chili pepper, like a serrano pepper is great in this recipe, jalapeno, just whatever you have around that's spicy. So if you want to zoom in on that, I'll show you what's going on. Don't be shy with your oil, because again, the spices need to roast in oil. You can see them bubbling up. So I'm stirring to make sure that the dry powder is getting mixed in with the oil. And it's gonna fizz and bubble like that just for a minute, and then you want to toss in your onion, garlic, and ginger. And actually, before I do that, my little cheat for this recipe, I'll show you this. This is sambar mix. Sambar is a super good South Indian soup. It's vegetarian. It's got a really rich taste from the pigeon peas or lentils that they grind up, and a bunch of great spices, just the perfect spice mix. So I think it adds a really nice kind of earthy flavor to the curry. So we're going to toss that in a little bit, and then come onions. So this is 1 onion. I like white onions. You can use yellow onions, even red ones in a pinch wouldn't hurt. And then we're going to salt it with some sea salt, cook them down. So as we're making this throughout, when you add the salt, it's going to bring out the natural juices, so these onions aren't going to stay so dry. But when stuff does start to dry out with this recipe, you can go ahead and add a little more oil. And I'm adding mostly coconut oil. I'm also going to use a little toasted sesame oil for flavor. Toss that in now. And you can add toasted sesame at the end too, and just a little goes a long way if you are trying to do a lower fat thing. Sesame oil just takes a little drizzle at the end to give it like a lot of flavor. So now in go, that's a tablespoon of grated ginger, a tablespoon of grated garlic. You want to use fresh for sure. And then about 2 tablespoons of hatch chili, or just 1 little bitty chili, minced up. The other thing you can add, depending how super healthy you want to go, a lot of the time I'd say stay away from margarines. They're full of processed crap, and your bodies don't break them down as well as even just butter. But you can do like a tablespoon or 2 of Earth Balance or another margarine or butter in this recipe. I really like the combo of the margarine taste or butter taste, coconut oil and sesame oil all together. So what I like about making sort of a more fatty recipe with this is that it takes less of it for you to feel satisfied. So if we were doing this low fat, you'd probably just want to eat 3 or 4 servings of the mashed potatoes. You do this with lots of oil, and 1 little serving is really satisfying, and then you're just done. So I can just feel people cringing like, she's adding so much fat. Alright, and we're going to dust it with salt again. And now that the onions are cooked down, they're kind of translucent, we're going to add all of our cooked vegetables. These veggies were not salted before, so you're just going to salt to taste. And the trick with salt too, something that's interesting to know, is that the more you eat super salty food, the more you're going to crave really, really sweet food. So if you want this to be your main meal and you don't want to go having a big dessert, Just don't make it super salty, and you should be good. So really important to mix it all up so the curry is going to get into the potatoes. And if you don't have a curry blend, the really essential spices that you want to mix together are going to be cumin, turmeric, coriander, chili pepper, and that should be it. I think that's it. And a little garam masala. And little secret ingredient of this is a touch of cinnamon. The original recipe I got this from called for a lot of cinnamon, and this isn't dessert, so I think that kind of tastes weird. So my version, you put just enough to give it a little hint of something sweet. So at this stage, it's going to look more like a stir fry than mashed potatoes, and that's where our blender comes in. But before blending, we want to make sure all the flavors are really melded together. So while that's cooking, chop up some cilantro. Cilantro is great because you want to add it at the end. You don't want to overcook it. It gets really mushy and it tends to lose its flavor. So I'm going to do about a half to 3/4 of a bunch of cilantro. And you just want to avoid the stems. Just keep it wrapped. Get the leaves. So that's most of it. And just mince it up real tiny. And the nice thing too about cooking for yourself at home is you really don't have to get hung up on technique at all. It really doesn't matter what your cutting technique is if you're mincing it right. You know, you just want to make sure you're not getting too many stems in there and that you're not going to cut your fingers. And however you do it aside from that is fine. Okay, go for a sec. So at this point, the actual cooking process is done, and then all you have to do to complete it is you want to take out half of it, puree it in a blender, just until it's like mashed potato consistency. If you don't have a blender at home, just take a mashed potato thing, a little masher, and just get it really, really well pureed for half of it, and then mix it in, and that's going to give you the perfect texture. I'll show you another video on how to actually roll the samosas to make them the little triangle puff pastries that they are. But that's it. So again, just draw a line across the middle, blend half of it, and then mix it all back together. It's going to be really creamy with some chunks in it, and you serve that either as a side dish, or you can watch my samosa wrapping recipe to do it as samosas. It's a perfect meal. You can add in cooked chicken. Sometimes they do beef and stuff. I think chicken probably tastes the best. Crab is awesome in here. Fish is good in here. Something simple and kind of neutral like tilapia. And the other secret, if you want to give it a really earthy flavor, is just a touch. This is my thing. This isn't Indian at all. Just a touch of oyster sauce. If you want to zoom in on that, this stuff is amazing. And you can add it to so many different dishes to give it a really deep, rich, salty flavor. So little goes a long way, but it can add a really good taste to this. So I'll show you. I'm just going to use like a half a tablespoon, the whole thing. And I just want to mix it in well. And then you're good. Then it's blender time.